The Owl House has come to an end. Despite all the hardships, Luz and her friends can now finally relax, because every little thing that has happened over the course of the show led to this happy ending. Makes you wonder if the outcome might have been noticeably different, or horrific even, if anything had been different. What if something small had been changed? What if the show's main elements are modified? What if Lilith had found the portal? Lilith cursed Ida to make sure she is the one who gets to join the Emperor's Coven. Despite all efforts, nothing Gwendolyn does can heal the poor little Ida. But she does not declare she'll cut her daughter up and take the curse out if she must, so that Kid Ida is not running away, stumbling upon the portal. Instead, Gwendolyn swears that she is going to find out where the curse came from, that she'll break who or whatever made her daughter go through all this pain. Kid Lilith overhears this. Terrified and plagued by guilt, she cannot endure living under the same roof as Ida anymore, seeing her sister suffer and living in constant fear of being exposed and punished. On a whim, she gets dressed and runs away from home, running until she trips over a suitcase sticking from the ground. Oh, and I couldn't even find any info whether Lilith even continued living with her family after joining the Emperor's Coven. But in case she doesn't, Lilith finding the portal might look a little more like this. One night, after having gotten a letter from her mother reporting how badly Ida's doing recently, she's sneaking out to visit her sister, planning to finally come clean and tell her everything. However, when she gets there, watching her dear sleeping sister through the window, she imagines Ida blowing up at her, screaming she hates her. The damage is done, but not wanting to lose the ties to her sister forever, she chickens out and wants to return to her quarters, which is when she comes across the portal. Lilith goes through the strange door, entering the human realm. Unlike Ida, who probably immediately beat up some kids to get their sandwiches, Lilith is terrified. Upon spotting the first human from afar, she sprints back through the door. Yet, Lilith is a curious little witchlet. Since that day, she can't sleep at night, knowing there's a whole other realm out there waiting to be explored. Her interest gets the better of her, and henceforth, Lilith is frequently visiting the human realm to study it. She decided to keep the portal a secret from everyone, especially her colleagues at the Emperor's Coven. Suspecting the portal could be some type of wild magic, she's aware if anyone ever finds out she possesses such an item, she's going straight to the Conformatorium. At any rate, unlike for Ida, for her the human realm is not just a giant playground. She's entering serious nerd mode, learning how people live there, making acquaintances, even attending university. I can totally see her taking like every major there is. As she gets older, she also gets herself a part-time job at the local bookstore. Consequently, she eventually learns about the history of Gravesfield, including the mysterious case of the Wittebane brothers vanishing into nothingness after allegedly making contact with a witch called Evelyn. At this point, she has not yet any clue who the Wittebanes are, but she considers Evelyn may have been a real witch from the demon realm, given she herself is a witch just casually chilling in the human realm. As a side note, during all these years, Ida is living quite the regular life for a hermit witch, as she's not making any trips to the human realm. In fact, Ida doesn't even know of the portal's existence. In theory, Ida could have been the one and only person Lilith decided to tell about the portal, just so she's not carrying the heavy burden of the secret alone. Yet, considering they have gotten rather estranged ever since Lilith cursed her, Ida being informed remains unlikely. Accordingly, Belos is not constantly pursuing her. Of course, she is still a wild witch, so if he got his hands on her, she'd be incarcerated. But he's not like obsessed with her, because she does not have the portal, which was the thing he had truly been after all along. Back to the timeline. We still want this show to be about Luz, not just about Lilith. So we are assuming that even if Owlbird is not raving around Luz trash, she still finds her way to the Boiling Isles. It could go something like this. Luz goes to the bookstore to buy the latest Azura book. Employee of the month, Lilith Clawthorn, checks her out and can't keep her sassy comments to herself. I tried reading this once, but the way witches are depicted is offensively inaccurate. You should try something with a little more class. Luz barely manages to contain herself from saying,
"Catch me outside, how about that?"
Over the course of the following week, Luz keeps thinking back to the strange lady, asking herself what she meant. Witches are not appropriately represented? Ultimately, the day that she's supposed to go to summer camp arrives, which is when she catches a glimpse of that strange lady sneaking around the woods next to her house. Not able to contain her curiosity, she tails Lilith until they reach the old shack, and promptly, Luz finds herself in the demon realm. She's fascinated by the bizarre scene unfolding in front of her. She must force herself to avert her eyes to continue following Lilith. To Luz's luck, she catches up with her shortly before Lilith returns to the Empress Castle and confronts her. A human? It's you, the Azura girl. I figured out what you meant. You're a real witch. That's amazing. Understandably, Lilith immediately wants to send her back to where she came from, partly out of fear for Luz, partly out of fear of Luz, and most importantly, out of fear for herself. Because if anyone catches sight of her together with a human, it's only a matter of time until her portal is discovered. That said, they are already too close to the castle. Lilith can't risk opening the portal then and there. She mumbles to herself while thinking. Luz overhears. On a whim, threatening Lilith, she'll scream as loud as she can if she does not let Luz stay and teach her magic. So Lilith's hands are kind of tied here. Luz freely running around the Boiling Isles, shouting in every direction that she came from the human realm through a portal is the worst thing that could happen to Lilith. She ain't got much choice but to take her in, beginning to consider where she's going to hide Luz. Her first instinct is asking Ida to house her, though she decides against it, not only because Ida has no interest in running a free kindergarten, also because Ida can be quite careless sometimes, meaning that it would take like 5 minutes at best until someone found out about Luz. The same argument probably goes for Gwendolyn too. Well, she can't trust anyone from the Coven. They are all loyal to Belos, or fear him enough to rat on her. You might think that Hunter is not really loyal, but at this point, he's still trying to get Belos' approval by any means. And even if he didn't, he'd still definitely belong to the second category. Therefore, Luz can't stay in Lilith's chambers at the castle. In the end, she settles on getting Luz into Hackside. Yeah, I know. How did that happen now? Lilith has always been an honor student, especially compared to her sister. She was like an angel sent from heaven. Bump is more than glad to do her a favor. Lilith's idea is to have Luz blend in with the students. Between all these teens of varying species, a single human won't stand out as much. Maybe Lilith is even giving her a magical item or something along these lines, making her not look like a human so much. Despite all that, there is one student at Hackside who's way too sharp to not notice. After observing her for a while, Amity confronts Luz, who folds faster than origami, breaking her promise to Lilith not to reveal to a single soul that she is a human. On this timeline, Amity does not hate Luz like she did on the OT, given that Luz did not embarrass her in Abomination class. Nevertheless, she still deems a human wanting to learn magic silly. Lilith permitting it is the only reason she accepts Luz staying here. She won't reveal her secret, and is not prying any further as to how she even ended up here. But it's not like she's going to be friends with Luz or anything. Some time goes by until the convention comes around. Since Lilith is going with Amity anyway, they take Luz too. Luz learns all about the covens and says she does not want to join one, to which Lilith responds that while it isn't allowed, there are still some witches who do study all kinds of magic. They are officially criminals, like her sister Ida. With Ida not being Luz's guardian, Ida's not attending the convention of course, and has still not met Luz at all. But to Luz, Ida sounds like a chill person and can kind of relate to her. During her time at Hackside, Luz is set on making friends with Amity and is rejected time after time after time. Willow notices, and having been pushed away by Amity too, she approaches Luz and they become friends. She later introduces her to Gus, and again Luz spills the beans. Every now and then Lilith comes to check on her, and every time she's visiting, Luz begs her to finally teach her some magic. She really does enjoy the classes at Hackside, but seeing that she's not a witch, which, school can't teach a human to actually cast spells. For a while Lilith could satisfy her with telling her all about the theory of magic, but weeks have gone by and she's running out of things to say. It's worth mentioning that by now Lilith has considerably warmed up towards Luz. For one, because Luz is simply a fun person to be around, but more so because she sees herself in Luz. Being passionate about something, absorbing knowledge, spending hours over hours learning everything there is to know about the topic of interest. Moreover, she also reminds her a little of Ida. Having sadly been estranged from her sister over time, she enjoys having a mini Ida around. She's kind of using Luz as an escapist method of dealing with her family trauma. Still, I like to imagine that by now their relationship is like it was in the original episode, Elsewhere and Elsewhen, and will only continue getting closer from this point on. Anyway, out of options but really wanting to help Luz, she introduces Luz to Ida. Maybe wild magic somehow offers Luz the chance to do at least a few magic tricks. So Lilith makes up an obvious lie why a human is on the Boiling Isles, and why that teenage girl must stay with Ida to learn about magic. Ida wants to argue with her, but decides to just go with it, thinking things must be serious if the rule-obsessed Lilith is lying, possibly even hiding something from the Emperor, and coming to the sister she's constantly calling a criminal for help. Luz does not start staying with Ida, but goes to the Owl House frequently to learn about magic. As time goes by, she figures out rune magic. Some of the episodes from season 1 occur in ways similar to the original, like understanding Willow and Grom, while others don't take place at all. Next, the Hexside students are supposed to go on a school trip to the Emperor's castle. Lilith is totally against it, fearing the risk of Luz being discovered is too damn high. Though, even if she did go, assuming she is not discovered, events similar to Agony of a Witch and Youngblood Old Souls would not occur. Reason obviously being that Lilith is on Luz's side, not to mention that Luz has no reason to cause trouble this time around. As a consequence, Ida and Lilith both keep their magic. Lilith is not kicked out of the coven. Thus, Luz and Lilith are not spending nearly as much time in the Owl House as they do on the OT. Therefore, Luz, Lilith and King don't get to talking about King's origins, and the trip to his birth island is not happening. In light of this event having been the trigger for several subsequent turning points, these turning points are not part of this timeline. In concrete terms, King does neither regain his horn nor his past memories, is not sending out a message out to his father as a reaction so that the Titan trappers don't take notice of King. Summed up, King does not learn that he is a Titan, but we're jumping ahead of the story. Because back in the human realm, summer camp comes to an end, Luz asks Lilith if she can use the portal to go home for a while. Not yet knowing that V is there, but that Lilith prefers using the portal as little as possible, Luz fully intends to tell Camila all about the Boiling Isles, hoping she'll get permission to stay there. Lilith sends Luz through the portal, and now the timeline splits into an ending and an ongoing route. Perhaps Lilith closes the portal behind Luz and gets rid of it afterwards. With this, she's also giving up the possibility of visiting the human realm herself. Why would she do this? Lilith has gotten super fond of Luz. That's precisely why she fears that sooner or later, Luz's cover is going to be blown, and the consequences will be bad for everyone involved. There's no immediate danger apparent yet, like Belos' real plans for the Day of Unity. Lilith is just a tad more conservative and anxious than, for example, Ida was. Resulting in this decision, she reflects on her time in the human realm, and while she cherishes the experiences she's made, she feels stupid for doing something so risky all these years. It's sad to see Lilith forcing herself to separate from Luz, her first real friend in who knows how long, after so much effort went into her development. At the same time, an even sadder scene is unfolding on Earth though. Luz returns home. Excited as she is, she has the talk about the birds and kings with Camila right off the bat, not going to her room where she would have met V. Her mom has trouble believing a single word she's saying, and if anything about this story was true, she definitely would never allow Luz to go back to that place. Luz insists Camila can be convinced if she sees the demon realm herself, also meeting Lilith and her friends who are taking care of her. She drags Camila to the abandoned hut, only to find the portal closed. Her mother, being sure this is another one of Luz's fantasies, goes home, thoroughly disappointed in her daughter. Luz ends up waiting in front of the hut for hours, and keeps returning every day to the portal that would never open again, until she too comes to believe she dreamt this all up. Let me just wipe my tears away real quick. Okay, here's how the story can continue, just the way we know it. Luz meets V. V tells Luz about Belos' experiments, and they agree to switch places. In contrast to the ending just now, Lilith lets Luz return for the reasons discussed earlier. Luz brings up the cruel experiments V mentioned to Lilith, wondering why Lilith would work for someone who does such things. But for Lilith, this is also the first time hearing about them. V's story triggers Lilith's first suspicions towards the Emperor, who has until now not been a true villain figure. In combination with her having grown closer to Ida again, she seriously begins to question why wild magic is supposed to be evil. Like, Ida's been using it for like 30 years now, being neither evil nor dangerous. At least not exceeding a concerning degree of crazy and dangerous. As if it was destiny, not long after, she overhears Hunter and Belos arguing about wild magic, right after Belos explaining the Day of Unity to the Coven heads. Due to not having betrayed the Coven in Season 1, Lilith is still a member at this time. During the meeting, Lilith draws multiple important conclusions. Belos is crazy. Even without knowing his actual plans for the Day of Unity, she thinks that combining the realms is a folly, especially based on her experiences in the human realm. Additionally, Belos needs a portal. She was right to hide the portal all along, and she'll be even more careful in doing so starting now. Lastly, Hunter has an interest in wild magic and is supposedly Belos' nephew, what does not really make sense to Lilith in any way. Luz has recently met Hunter in the episode Hunting Palisman, getting the feeling that he is not evil through and through. Therefore, she totally believes Lilith when she says Hunter could be a huge help in stopping Belos' plans. They also let Ida in on this, as someone who's been opposing the Emperor's Coven for many years. So when Ida meets Raine again, joining their rebellion, she immediately reports back to Lilith that there is already a whole rebellion going on. Moving forward, they are cooperating. Accordingly, Lilith informs everyone she trusts about the portal, believing it's important to know a portal exists while Belos wants one. Furthermore, Ida and Raine do not walk into Darius and Eberwolf's trap, because Lilith got wind of it beforehand and wants them. By the way, as Luz has no reason to build her own portal, she is not in possession of Philip's diary. However, remember that Lilith knows the story of Philip and Caleb Wittebane, theorizing they may have come to the demon realm. She also told Luz about it, while teaching her about the history of magic. Anyway, that being the case, no one has ever heard of the Collector. In addition, any episodes that were directly caused by the diary do not occur on this timeline. This includes Elsewhere and Elsewhen. For entirety's sake, we consider the possibility of Belos not being a threat at all a potential ending to this route, given without Luz he can't reach the Collector. However, it's not unlikely that eventually someone plays Luz's part sufficiently well so that the story continues. Over the course of the weeks leading up to the Day of Unity, Lilith, Luz and her friends have made several attempts to get closer to Hunter in order to obtain more information about Belos. He's not easily betraying the person he believes to be his uncle, but he is outstandingly receptive to the others' friendly advances. After gaining his trust, step by step, they push him to question Belos more and more. Belos forbids wild magic and is consuming countless palismans without ever being upfront about the reasons. Hunter would like to use wild magic and hold on to Flapjack. When he is on a mission to stop some rebels from entering Belos' mind, in Hollow Mind, Luz is not there and they do not accidentally end up in Belos' head. Hunter succeeds in retrieving the potion, but he remembers everything his new friends have told him. Yearning for clarity, whom he should trust more, he contacts Luz, and together they search through Belos' memories. In doing so, it becomes clear that Belos is actually Philip, that Hunter is a Grimwalker based on Philip's brother, and what the Covens in the Day of Unity are truly for. Belos notices their presence, which is the first time he really becomes aware that another human is in the demon realm. Hunter cannot return to the castle. Unlike on the OT, he's already formed friendships with Luz and co, meaning he's not hiding at Hackside out of embarrassment, but accepts their help instead, staying at Gus' house from now on. This is the turning point for Hunter. At any rate, the two report to Lilith and the rest of the rebels what they unveiled. Lilith can connect the hints to the story of the Wittebanes, figuring out that Philip is indeed from Gravesfield, and puzzling together the most critical parts of his past. The rebels have a few advantages now. Belos only now caught on that Luz is here. Only now he realized that there is some kind of portal in the demon realm, but he has no clue where it is, because he knows nothing about Luz's time on the Boiling Isles, or about her connections. Moreover, there's not enough time left to get a large-scale search for the portal moving. Put differently, the Owl House is not besieged, and no one is forced to flee to the knee. Over and above that, he has several traitors among his ranks: Raine, Lilith, Darius, and Eberwolf. He's been suspecting Raine, but is totally unaware of the rest. All of these four are planned to be part of the draining spellcasting. We'll assume that because Lilith still has her original position, she's included in the ritual. Alright, the game is set for the hypothetical Season 3. From this point on, this timeline is going to split into 3 routes, one of which involves the spell corruption plan, and 2 that build more on the advantages we just gathered. Make sure to stay around until the end, as these routes offer several more endings, including a new ultimate happy ending. Alternative 1. The rebels cook up the corruption plan and get ready on the Day of Unity. Right before things get rolling, being aware they might all be dead in 5 minutes, Lilith gathers all her courage to tell Ida it was her who put the curse on her. Understandably, Ida is shocked and isn't sure how to feel towards Lilith, given on one hand she caused her so much pain, while on the other hand, recently they've gotten so much closer again. At the very least, she is happy that Lilith came clean, in case this is the last time they see each other, as it means that in the end, Lilith decided to be honest with her, when instead, she could have just taken this to the grave. In accordance with this development, just like at the end of Season 1, Lilith takes on half her curse to atone for her mistake. In fact, this is a lifesaver, because when Ida is exposed and removed from the ritual, the spell continues to be corrupted through Lilith. No one has any clue why the corruption hasn't stopped, until it's too late, and the spell fails. Meanwhile, Luz and her friends have been facing Philip, who then gets distracted by his master plan falling apart. He steps outside, wanting to restart the spell before the eclipse ends. That being so, every citizen of the Boiling Isles turns witness of Belos' true self, right after almost being killed by him. A riot breaks loose. Everyone is out to get him. And boy, do they get him. Everyone is kicking his balls until he dies. So the Collector is not needed on this route, taking into account that no one has any knowledge of him and that King may not even be there, because due to him and Luz not being as close as on the OT, Luz likely did not take him along to face Belos. The Collector will probably spend eternity lying in that gorge, sealed off and alone. Though of course it's possible that on this route Lilith is also exposed. Then Belos succeeds in killing everyone off, as the Collector is not set free to stop the spell. Eventually, he'll also find the portal and return to Earth.
This is my perfect victory! That's right! I win!
good thing we can just pretend this didn't happen and continue with the next alternative. In one episode, Lilith applied a super convenient spying spell. Let's work with that. She's making use of it while her betrayal is still unknown to the Emperor's Coven. Not only does she get further confirmation for Belos' intentions, she also gains intel on the Collector. In light of the Collector being stashed away in Belos' personal laboratory, Lilith and the other rebels agree trying to steal him is too risky. If they tried and got caught, there'd be no one left to oppose Belos on the Day of Unity. For now, they are satisfied with knowing the Collector exists and that Belos got the draining spell from him, what obviously means he should know how to stop it too. Henceforth, Lilith keeps spying on Belos and the Collector, waiting for an opening to establish contact to him. Maybe on the Day of Unity, while the ritual is going on, there will be a chance. Again, Lilith reveals her secrets to Ida. Then, so that Lilith can keep observing the Collector, Ida takes Lilith's place in the spell instead of Raine's, which could or could not succeed. But we already discussed the corruption earlier, so we're assuming the plan fails and Ida is only delaying the spell, for convenience's sake, as long as we need it to be delayed. In the meantime, Lilith's spy action finally delivers results, as she sees Belos getting rid of the Collector, telling him he does not have any Titan blood to set him free and that he does not want him to help anyone else. Lilith rushes to retrieve the Collector. Along the way, she comes across Luz, who secretly tagged along to fight Belos. Luz being there changes everything for Lilith. Change of plan. Lilith goes to deal with Belos on Luz's behalf, while Luz climbs down the gorge to find the Collector. Additionally, Lilith gives Luz the portal and its key, so that Belos does not get his hands on it, should Lilith be defeated. Under normal circumstances, Lilith would not have been able to hold her ground face to face with Philip, but she has the power of knowledge on her side. During the fight, she's provoking him, spouting all her theories about him, Caleb and Evelyn at him. Some are correct, others aren't. Philip has a distinct, witch-hating view on the entire story and feels he must justify his actions, or rather, correct the nonsense Lilith is rambling on about. He's effectively distracted, reciting his version of the story to Lilith, thus also to the viewers. At the same time, Luz is asking the Collector how she can set him free. She just learned they need Titan's blood, but how is she supposed to get some? As far as she knows, the Titans are all dead. Neither her nor the Collector know that King is a Titan, not to mention that he's not here right now, but the Collector just cackles, sensing the Titan's blood in the portal key. Not having any clue how dangerous the Collector can be, but not having another choice either, Luz sets him free, which is a totally powerful move considering Luz is willingly sacrificing her only means of ever returning to the human realm. From here on, the story could either end terribly, with the Collector starting to terrorize the Boiling Isles until every single person has been turned into a puppet, or Luz manages to render the Collector harmless by understanding his character and helping him. If you're interested in the latter ending, make sure to check out this other What If, where I'm explaining it in all detail. Last but definitely not least, here's the final route, with the final two endings. Lilith uncovers the Collector's existence and connection to Belos. Her, Raine, Darius and Eberwolf are painfully aware that they can easily be replaced or forced to comply during the draining spell. For that reason, they are willing to gamble it all on this opportunity. Unfortunately, falsely believing stealing the Collector now will bring an end to all of Belos' plans. In an epic assault, they break into the laboratory, seize the Collector and flee the scene. For the dramatic effect, one of them may sacrifice themselves to secure the other's safe escape. But has it all been for nothing? After returning to the rebels' hideout, the Collector informs them Belos does not need him anymore to go through with the draining spell. Ida's this close to throwing him out the window because he's laughing a little too hard at their disappointed faces. We as the audience of course know that the Collector can in fact simply break off the spell, but the Collector is not offering his help to them. At this point in the show, the Collector has not been betrayed by Philip, still believing hoping Philip will soon set him free. Not to mention that as far as he knows, he is the only one who can do it. Yep, that's a lie. Belos does not have any Titan's blood, but the Collector evidently blindly trusts that he does. So he's kind of mad at the rebels for having abducted him, as they are keeping him from being freed. That's only until he spots King, however. He considers suggesting a deal to get free now, yet he actually considers Belos his friend. And one thing I'll give the Collector, he is not easily betraying his friends, at least not until he has solid proof they are planning to backstab him. Simultaneously, the rebels are unconscious of the fact they need a Titan to set him free, and that conveniently there is a Titan among them. Over and over they talk to the Collector, attempting to make him understand how evil Philip is, that he has betrayed every single person in his life. Hoping to get the point across, Lilith describes how Philip even murdered his own brother. The Collector agrees that if this was true, it would be suspicious. Nonetheless, he clings to the hope that they are wrong. Belos is his only friend. He desperately wants to believe in him, especially since Belos tried stopping the rebels from taking him, what he interprets as Philip truly caring about him, when in reality, he feared the Collector will lend the rebels his strength. At last, the day of unity arrives. Rebels have absolutely no plan whatsoever to save the demon realm. Still, they are not going down without a fight, going to the ceremony just to cause trouble. Ida and Lilith tell King and Luz to stay behind, to survive and to hold watch over the Collector. You know King and Luz though. They grab the Collector and follow the rest. Upon arrival, they see everyone on the verge of death. Belos watching the scene with a satisfied smirk on his stupid face. While keeping the Collector hidden, Luz walks up to him to fight. Belos, delighted to see another human again after centuries, holds a little speech. How did you get here? Do you have a portal? I want to go home to the human realm. Come with me. Together we can leave this sick place, filled with disgusting magical monsters. The Collector hears this. Suddenly, everything the rebels told him seems to make sense. He understands that Philip was also talking about him when he chose to utter the word disgusting. Luz catches on, asking Philip if over all this time he has spent here, there has not been a single person he has come to like, might have even called a friend. In response, Philip can only laugh, spitting out more curse words to showcase how perverse magic is in his eyes. While Belos is busy with that, the Collector whispers to King to set him free using his blood, which he promptly does, to the surprise of the flabbergasted Philip. A few seconds later, Philip is no more. Given the circumstances, the Collector has not made a deal with the others before being set free, but he wishes for someone to play with him, so he now offers of his own accord to stop the spell if they'll entertain him afterwards. They agree, and for now the day is saved. When on the OT, the Collector immediately started destroying everything, he does not do so on this timeline, because until now, he kept the fact that King is a Titan to himself. Therefore, he goes to talk to King now, telling him how a Titan sealed him and how he was playing with Kid Titans just like him in the past. King is bewildered, but wants to know more and asks the Collector all kinds of questions. At first, he's answering them as well as he can, which is also how everyone finds out how the Titans perished, until he gets bored. Fortunately, King's inquiries about the past made the Collector remember the games he used to play with the Titans. They play them, thus, chaos ensuing right after the Collector's liberation is avoided. While they are playing, the Collector is very happy about having found new friends. They all agree with him that what the other Collectors did to the Titans was wrong, though what he means is they were boring and strict for not letting him play with them, while Lewis and co obviously mean they are plain evil. But for now, he is convinced they all understand his feelings, which is the biggest reason he hasn't yet killed them all. Eventually, his true colors come to the surface though, turning those who annoy him and treat him badly into puppets. Luz will not stand for this and admonishes him. I know, right? Super risky move. There are two ways the Collector could react to this. At first, he tolerates it, promising not to do it again. but only because he fears his newfound friends will not like him anymore if he continues doing it. The people continue complaining about him, how he gets special treatment all the time, being allowed to play without any concern for others. His patience runs out. He can't control himself any longer, breaking his promise to lose. As a result, those whom he believed to be his friends are afraid of and angry at him. Finally, he realizes that they too never understood him at all. Feeling betrayed yet again, he rampages until not a single living being except for him is left. Now he won't be hurt again, right? No worries, there's a more pleasant alternative to this. Luckily, the way Lou scolds him evokes memories of how the Titans treated him. They did not judge him, they accepted him, while teaching him to discern wrong from right. In spite of this, King's dad ended up sealing him. The Collector was betrayed by everyone he got close to, when all he really wanted was a friend. Out of fear of the same procedure repeating, he distances himself from Luz and the gang. To his surprise, they actually get concerned for him. No one has ever shown him this kind of care. Centuries of solitude and depressive emotions well up inside of him. For the first time in ages, he opens up about his deepest feelings. Luz is touched and very understanding. She promises they are friends. She is accepting him and will do her best to help him lead a life that can make him and everyone around him happy. Her friends approve. Seeing that he's still hesitant, Luz tells of her own experiences, comparing herself to him and explaining how she got better. The Collector takes her hand and begins his journey of becoming the best version of himself. Lilith still has the portal, making it possible for Luz to regularly visit the Boiling Isles, and they all lived happily ever after. Since you made it to the very end of this video, please consider subscribing to Frogtoons. Every little sign of support for this channel directly supports me in making more interesting cartoon and anime content for you. Stay safe, and if none of us find a portal to another world, I'll see you next time.